it seems like we haven't talked to you in months of days.
I know. I am doing pretty good. I was with some family for the past couple of days. It was really good to connect with some of them I hadn't seen in a while. Um, so that was a nice little gift this week.
A nice little vacation. So you're home plane when we talked last night, texted last night. So
Yeah.
you want a plane home, not a outbound.
Correct. Yeah, I am home.
Because we were concerned about you because of the nature of your investigative endeavors. We thought maybe the investigative gremlins got it.
Not yet.
Actually,
Not yet.
I'm joking.
Not yet.
Jim, I do worry about you, and I admit it's a little neurotic, but it's also, you're a great investigator, but you're out there beating the bushes. Yeah. So anyway, Jim, what's going on with Myra? How are the book sales? What's going on with that? Tell us everything.
Well, you know what's funny is that I talked to my neighbor last night when I came in, and he asked me the same question: "How's book sales?" And and it drives him nuts because I go, "I don't know, I haven't looked," and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I really haven't looked." And he asked me that about my first book, and I was like, I really don't look. I mean, it's the reports they send, because you've got Kindle, you've got paperback, you've got hardcover. So I really don't look. I know that it's still trending in white collar crime on Amazon, really high. Actually, my other book, Defending Alec Murdaugh, also is starting to kick back up. So we have two books now. Whoops, I'm trying to get this into the camera. Can't do that's backwards. There we go. Because enough is enough, and Defending Alec Murdaugh. So to answer your question, I don't really know. I look at Amazon once in a while, and I see it trending, and there's some 5-star reviews, and that's fantastic. You got to give it a little time to get some traction. That's all.
Absolutely. Yes. So what's going on? Myra is doing media, correct? Like she did Critical K recently?
She's doing Critical K next week. I think she's going to be on her, I think it's Facebook Live. And Kay has about, 50,000 followers on her page.
She's on Facebook?
She's on Facebook, yeah.
So what's Myra's take on it? She likes doing media or what?
No, not really. She's not a public figure. She's not a celebrity. She's just a person who got a letter in the mail from Colleton County to come sit on a jury, and she did her civic duty. Anytime these things come out, when my first book came out, I guess I wasn't quite ready for the backlash that comes with writing a book. Putting words down on paper makes people mad. I've come to find out. Words make people mad, especially when it comes to Alec Murdaugh, because they have a preconceived notion, if you will, of his guilt or innocence, and most of it is the guilt. And no matter what, I've seen people, they don't care. No matter what, they do not care. He does not deserve a fair trial, and that's just wrong, because that's just un-American. Honestly, it's un-American. It's unpatriotic.
Did she get a death threat?
She didn't get a death threat. Somebody told her if Alec Murdaugh gets a new trial, she should go commit suicide, which is an awful thing to say to anybody on any circumstances. But the woman is just, again, did her civic duty and is telling the truth as she knows it, and for that, people are just coming after her, coming after me too. I mean, it's just making up all kinds of lies, and it's just it's unfortunate that people have to be this way. But I will tell you this, I'm trying to think of where I put it in the book. But she wanted to put this in the book, and she had a premonition, as a matter of fact, about people coming after her in this book. And she knew who the people were who were going to come after her for no other reason than putting words into a book. And she wrote in there that this says more about you as a person to come after her than it ever will her. And but she says, has no doubt that a podcaster or podcasters and other people who follow these type of people will come after her and call her names and say all kinds of ridiculous things, only because they think that Alec Murdaugh should not have a Sixth Amendment rights again, which I said, in my opinion, is un-American. And if you don't like the Sixth Amendment, I suggest you leave this country and go find a place that doesn't have the Sixth Amendment and see how well you like living there.
Yeah, no problem with that. Now, the Supreme Court has sort of put on hold their until September 16th to respond to. McCullough has moved to unseal records related to the in-camera hearings. I guess it's the transcripts from the in-camera hearings. And the in-camera hearing, by the way, is a hearing outside of everybody else, outside of the court. It's usually in the chambers of the judge, and it involves just the attorneys and a group of people, but it's not made public.
Right.
So there was an in-camera hearing during which Judge Newman asked about evidence related to whether or not Juror 785, Myra, had made posts on Facebook or broken her vow to not discuss the case not discuss the case until the jury went to deliberate, frankly.
Right.
But anyway, so McCullough got did he get the complete version or did he get a redacted version? McCullough got access to.
McCullough got the full version, including the body cam video of the SLED agents who went to interview the tenants. I've never seen any of it. I just know what was sent because that's what he requested. And
he wants that released because he says that, among other things, it substantiates what Myra Crosby has been saying.
I don't know if he went out and said the words it substantiates, or what he said was, Myra would like these documents released, and the state of South Carolina does not. You decide for yourself why.
Well, no, they have. So they're arguing back and forth, and they have the Supreme Court has given both parties, the prosecution and Joe,
right,
until September 15th to submit, their arguments for why they should or should not be released. So I'm wondering.
Well, hold on. Here, not only have they still kept those records under seal, they have also sealed his motion.
Requesting it.
His motion.
Jim, do you do anything with visuals? I mean, like YouTube and stuff like that. You do that, right?
What do you mean, visuals?
Well, you do stuff that has a visual with it, just in addition to the audio, right?
Yes.
He's doing it right now. I think you're broadcasting.
Is that right? Anytime that you have reference to the bias against Alec Murdaugh, you got to put a little clip in there from the Frankenstein movie with all the villagers chasing Frankenstein with the pitchfork. All right? Because every time this bias against Alec Murdaugh comes up, and listen, he did a lot of bad stuff, and that's okay. But when it comes to the murder of his family, the only thing I see is the villagers chasing Frankenstein down the road with the pitchforks and torches. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And again, it's me. I just get that visual all the time.
It is.
It's intense.
All cognitive thinking is thrown out the window.
It is. And people. Well, that's a psychological truth. It's well studied that once people form an opinion, it's almost impossible to change that opinion, and that's why it's so important to get ahead of a narrative so that they don't form that deeply entrenched opinion. And we're critical from time to time, like all day, every day, about the defense, about Alec Murdaugh's defense. And I don't know if that's always fair or not. It's sort of easy to criticize from the outside looking in. But I think it's fair to say that they didn't manage the PR particularly well. That at every step of the way up until the trial, so what was that, 2.5 years or whatever, they just didn't. They let the PR machine, they let the narrative just spin wildly out of control. So it's not, I kind of see why we have this mob hysteria and this absolute certainty that he's guilty. But I'm wondering, because I'm just curious by nature, because I see this, even Fitz News has covered this idea of what are they hiding? What, like you said, they have actually sealed the motion to unseal this, which to me suggests that there's more to this maybe than what we realize. And I'm wondering if there's more to it than Joe McCullough realizes, that there's, we don't know we don't really know what all the state is investigating right now. But maybe they're doing the exact thing we want them to be doing, and they're saying we need not to make this public right now until our investigation is complete. Because we can definitely say.
Well, then they should say that, because the response was
they might think that we presume it.
The response was, because of ongoing matters, the state cannot consent to unsealing at this time. I don't know what ongoing matters is, and neither does Fitz News, neither does anybody else.
Don't forget. Let's set Fitz News aside, because let's just set them aside. Although they're welcome to chime in at any point, but I'm just wondering that what that says is they don't even want to say we have an ongoing criminal investigation. They don't want to say anything. They sort of, you could almost admire that they rightly don't want to leak anything, because our takeaway is we don't know. And so we're sort of filling our lack of knowledge. We're filling in the blanks with nefarious motives. We're assuming a lot of nefarious motives, but it's possible, just in the realm of possibility, that we're wrong, that they're actually on track. They just don't want to tip their hand, because
well, what's in it?
I don't know. Okay, so this is what I don't want to say, but I think that Becky Hill didn't act alone, and I think we've talked about there seems to be the close association with certain podcasters, these entities that are related to a particular podcast. And maybe the state is actually investigating that. And so maybe they're saying we have warrants and we need to look at phone records, and we know some of these phone records are coming out in another case. In the 392 case, we may get access to all sorts of interesting phone records that in that case, they seem to be kicking and screaming and fighting like a wild animal to resist having to disclose what the heck they were doing. Were they colluding? The allegation is these people were colluding. And I don't even want to finish the end of the sentence. I'm not sure what they were colluding to do. I'm not sure if it was just naughty, or if it was criminal, or somewhere along that scale. But maybe we're just on that precipice of actually kind of understanding a little bit more, and they just need more time. Because I don't think the South Carolina Supreme Court would seal motions that way. If you look at that, that's not something they do frequently. So I'm guessing, and I don't think they do it capriciously or arbitrarily or with an intent to have sleight of hand in any way. So I'm wondering if maybe they've seen something that we haven't seen, and even something that maybe Joe McCullough, in his brilliance and wisdom, totally missed. That, oh, yeah, that's important too. So he's sort of suggesting, and actually I haven't spoken to Joe McCullough, he may come on and say no, but it seems like his position is the only one impacted by these records is Myra. But maybe what he's overlooked is, oops, no, there are other people, and he just doesn't realize that there are other interests involved. So I'm just saying, is it possible that we just need more time? Because I don't think the state is saying we will never unseal them. They're saying not now.
Right. So here's something from the book, and you're going to like this because it's on page 62.
Okay, well, check. I got my book right here, so let's go. I love fascinating books.
Juror 785. Let's see. Juror 75, because enough is enough. On page 62, where the woman says, I am the one who emailed Judge Newman about the egg juror talking. Then Dick, Harpootlian she's referring to, called me after trail, she writes trail, not trial, to ask me to meet. I recorded him. I recorded without him knowing. She writes funny. Thankfully, I did. It's helping Becky, ! Between Luna Shark and Mark Tinsley guiding me. And then she goes
Oh,
on.
you had a ding, ding, ding. That's exactly what I was talking about.
She kind of goes on to say in another one that thanking Luna Shark for all of these past months of help, and that she wanted to go buy them lunch. I'm assuming Domino's, because that's where she
And
works.
she's the one that emailed the judge about the 8 juror.
Right. I would love to see the email, because I know this person's writing, and I've read in this Discord, I don't know, at least 50 to 75 different posts she had, and her writing is such that it's probably of a eighth grader, ninth grader, the spelling, the grammar, and all these things. So if that email is written in such a way that is anywhere eloquent, she didn't write it. And if she didn't write it, and she's thanking all these people for all their help, listen, I can put 2 and 2 together if that's what you want. But if you start looking at some things, if people were involved with this woman who worked at Domino's and helping her during the trial to write an email to a judge to try to get a juror kicked off, you tell me how many crimes that's committed, because there is several. If that could be a possibility, and I don't know if it is, but if that's a possibility. It's not good.
It doesn't look good.
None of this looks good.
But none of it looks good. Do you want to talk a little bit about the spreadsheet that Liz Farrell had generated? Because we did live stream content with an attorney who had been part of that Discord group who talked about that spreadsheet, and it concerned her because it was essentially doxing the jurors.
Well, we certainly can, but I would love to know your opinion on how quickly the South Carolina Supreme Court is jumping all over this, including this motion for Myra. I mean, have you seen a Supreme Court, a state Supreme Court, move this fast?
Yeah, because it's just a motion. It's just a motion to grant or deny something.
Well, I know, but they're not sitting around waiting for motions from attorneys. I mean, motions are.
No, but this is a motion fairly put before them, and they're going to rule on it. And no, the short answer to your question, yes, I've seen that. So I don't think I'm pleased that they're addressing it. It's not a complex motion, so they can actually rule on it. But it's interesting. I'll give you that. It's interesting.
Why seal the motion? Unless he had it.
I don't think they would do it capriciously or arbitrarily, Jim. I think they have a reason. We don't know.
Here's the reason. It might be motivation. The Supreme Court is getting the seats are changing now.
They've changed.
They've changed, right?
Right.
Yeah. So could that be a motivation to get things moving along?
It very well could be. I mean, they did. I haven't seen a date yet that they've set to hear the arguments for, I guess, the jury tampering, if I'm using the correct term there. I don't know.
I haven't seen it either. I haven't. So I don't.
But I'm assuming it's probably this fall, maybe early winter.
But like you mentioned, it depends on their calendar, and it depends. What they're talking about is the rights of one person, and even though they're important rights, there are constitutional rights. They have other cases, so I'm sure they have a full docket. And
Elaine and I were talking about something that came up in the Supreme Court yesterday. Something about this the students' lockbox or the freedom of education thing. Where there would be come on, Elaine, help me out here. Where the student would get so much money to go to a different school and stuff like that, and the Supreme Court just turned that down and said it was unconstitutional.
Oh, to give public money to private schools?
Yes. Well, to the student to be used in private schools.
Right.
we didn't, Frank, we didn't, with Alan Wilson, we did not talk about them. We talked about Lookwood Bright Enterprises. We talked about the Chevron deference. We talked about the.
He also talked about. He had mentioned that the Supreme Court ruled on it, and that the outgoing Supreme Court Chief Justice, that might have been his parting shot. You remember that? No?
No, because there's no outgoing. Roberts is still the Supreme Court Justice.
No. South Carolina State Supreme Court. All right.
I don't know. Because I watched it over last night, and I don't recall. I think there was another conversation. It's an interesting conversation, but this is the thing. That does happen. I mean, it certainly happens where when the makeup of the court changes for whatever reason. I know of a court case where the court was split 5-4 one way, and then one of the justices retired, and so there was a huge push by the 4 to delay publishing the opinion. Yeah, so it was a 5-4 decision. So the 4 said, well, we know this one justice is retiring. Let's not publish the opinion until the new justice is seated. And then they asked to rehear the case, rehear the entire thing, and decided 4-5. It changed how the case was decided. So if you're asking, does it happen? Yeah, it does. But I don't know if that's what's going to impact Alec Murdaugh's. He's going to get a second trial. He just is. I don't see any way the state's going to avoid it. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a Friday late in the afternoon decision. A lot of times when the court, when some monumental thing in news happens, they announce it Friday evening, Friday afternoon, so that they hope that nobody pays any attention to it, and then, off you go. So, but I don't think there'll be a lot of fanfare with it. I think Alec will get a second trial, and then we'll be back to square one. And at that point, the conduct, the what this, because enough, the book, the claims made in the book or the inferences in the book will relate to a whole different. Alec Murdaugh will no longer have any interest. That won't impact him going forward at all. But it certainly will impact other people who engaged in behavior or aided and abetted that behavior. So there may be a whole new bunch of trials that relate to people. Myra speculates, and she says it's speculation. She's not asserting it as fact, but she does speculate that there was a conspiracy. And if she's right, this was the point I'm trying to make. The Supreme Court may be saying, or the prosecution may be saying, we think it's really credible. We just want more time to have all the evidence we need to charge people, because there's a whole separate series of criminal conduct that actually don't relate to Alec Murdaugh. They relate to other people who seem to be sort of involved in one way or another with Rebecca Hill.
Yeah.
Here's a great question. Now, Jim's second book is about the jury.
Yes.
And when the new trial is in session, that's the jury. The past juries are going to be a moot point. All right, and there's no bearing that. But
With respect to Alec, yes.
right now, the first book, Jim's first book, Not Guilty. What was the name of it, Jim?
Game on.
Defending Alec Murdaugh, not guilty by reasonable doubt.
All right. Argument.
That book is relevant.
Argument. Yes, that book is relevant. Do you think? This is a stretch. Do you think they're going to call Jim Cask in?
He's not an expert witness. No, but I think they could use him as a consultant. They could use him as a consultant.
As an investigative source, and yes, as a consultant. You might
But he would not qualify as an expert witness. Not
looking for an expert witness.
Okay.
He'd be an investigative source and consultant.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. Jim, you have a whole new job.
There you go.
No, absolutely. And I think you would be a valuable member of the defense team, because I hate to say this, but I sometimes have the impression that the team didn't really. There seemed to be a whole lot of evidence that I don't know if they rejected it or if it existed, but you've talked to the people, you've seen the documents, you've been in the bushes, you've been to the door, you've knocked on the. I think you would be invaluable to the defense in all kinds of ways Yes, 100%. Yeah.
By the way, I did a story at crimeandcast.com on it was called Obstruction, Suborning Perjury, Conspiracy to Commit a Crime, and Interference with Court Proceedings. I explained it in detail what those particular crimes are in a hypothetical world. And if somebody, I don't know who, but if somebody were to have stepped in with this person from Domino's Pizza in this email that was sent to Newman, if they helped construct this and came up with a fabricated story to help the judge decide to get Myra off of this jury, that is obstruction of justice, suborning perjury, conspiracy to commit a crime, and interference with court proceedings in the state of South Carolina. And there might be more, but I go through those in quite detail, including filing false reports. It's an incredible thing. If that were to happen, and I don't know if it happened, maybe that's what they are investigating right now.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That we're assuming, because and media did this all along. They said, well, they're not responding right now, and we have a deadline, and we'd like to know the answer right this minute. And because they're not responding, we're going to assume blah blah blah. And they almost always get it wrong. So in this case, I think the state or the prosecution is being appropriately discreet. So I don't want to know what their investigation is about, because when we know day by day, things get leaked, everything's a mess, and it becomes too political, because the prosecution or the state is pandering to the media, where this way they're not. They're saying, we're keeping this totally sealed. And so I don't, there may be an incredibly interesting story. And if there is, Jim, you're kind of at the epicenter of it. And then so is that attorney I mentioned, who is a North Carolina attorney. And she, I don't know that she would ever want to have anything to do with this again, but she certainly is knowledgeable, and she's, from a legal perspective, she understands what has a legal cause of action and what is just simply bad behavior, because there is a difference, So, but I think it's alarming that you have two licensed South Carolina attorneys that seem to be engaged in stuff that seems questionable. It just does. And read Juror 785, because enough is enough to get an idea of the details. But yeah, this is not over. Okay, and
Over. This thing is just beginning.
yeah.
The
And I think that I don't think Alec Murdaugh is even that interesting a man. I know the story isn't about him. To me, there's another person who is absolutely fascinating, whose name comes up. In fact, his name is in that text or that post that you just read. I think that guy is at the epicenter of everything. He's definitely involved in the 392 case. I think he is the fascinating creature in all of this. And I think the 392 case is the most interesting of all the litigation, including the trials, because it gives you an overview of humanity, of how people, we had this event, and then we have all these people that interacted with that event or exploited it or monetized it or whatever it was they did. And that is so much more fascinating than kill.
Yeah, this thing is it's like it's like the Finger Lakes. It keeps moving.
Is that what you were?
No, I was in Wisconsin.
So that was what was in the background of that photo, was a lake. I thought it was a lake. I did.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that at some point, take all the financial crimes and put them on the side?
Yes.
Just take the murder conviction. Do you think Alex is going to end up a victim at some point, or is going to be viewed as a victim?
No.
Well, victim. Yeah, that's a strong word. Victim as far as, I think there was a lot of people.
It's a miscarriage of justice.
It certainly was. I think there was a lot of people who had motives, financial motives, to see him guilty. And you don't have to look far to see who those people are. To see they wanted him not guilty, not maybe hung jury, guilty. Him being guilty had a financial windfall for a lot of people. And still it is.
If he hadn't engaged in those financial transactions, yes, I think possibly they might somehow get back to seeing him a victim. But there's just this global perception that he's guilty. So even if he gets acquitted in the second trial, people will think he got away with it, and they think he's a bad person because of those financial crimes.
But did you just say he wasn't a victim because of his financial crimes? Because
I said that people won't perceive him that way.
That's true. You're right.
I think he is.
You're right. You have to.
The perception.
Right. You have to be able to compartmentalize each little thing that's going on here. Here's the murders, guilty or not guilty. Here's the financial crimes. He's pled guilty. Now here's a completely different thing that's attached to this, which is the alleged jury tampering, which is the alleged obstruction of justice, the alleged, supporting perjury and conspiracy, and there's all these schemes that are just like offshoots of what happened with him. He's really just what am I trying to think of? He's just the gateway. Once you go through that gate, and there's all kinds of things that are going on, and it was all because of finance. Not somebody making $100 and selling a few T-shirts. I'm talking about millions of dollars. Book sales and TV shows and cases that were won, these type of things. That book sales. I mean, oh my Lord. Yes. I mean, nobody wants to buy a book or see a TV show about a hung jury from a guy who said he was guilty in some financial crimes. It's kind of a no. No one's really interested in that. Guilty of murder.
I think if there hadn't been this enormous press, and think about it, you've got to sort of undo the perception created by Netflix. That alone is enough to sway hundreds of millions of people around the globe. So if there hadn't been the perception of the evil Alec Murdaugh, the HBO where they had his face sort of camouflaged, the graphic. Okay, so the graphic is cut apart like a puzzle piece almost. Anyway, so if they hadn't done that smear, that global smear, I think people would see him as a victim.
I know. When people say, "Oh, I need to catch up on this. I need to watch Netflix," I'm like, "Oh God, don't do that."
But so if we didn't have that body of massive PR defining him as the evil Alec Murdaugh, and if we didn't have those financial crimes, which it's annoying in a way because all of his victims were made whole and then some.
Right.
And I don't like that he did it, but some attorneys around this country do that. In fact, you talked about this. We talked about this. That other attorney in South Carolina, the woman who I think stole something like $30 million, and all she got was a 5-year probation. She didn't serve any jail time at all, and she didn't make restitution to her clients.
Right.
So I don't know, but I don't. There's really something about Alec, and I think a lot of it has to do with the PR that the public. The people that didn't know him and didn't like him before the trial don't particularly like him now. Although I think I saw that he's getting love letters in prison. That women are writing him that they love him.
He is. I did a show with a YouTuber, Excited Utterance. Her name is Hella. She's out of New Zealand. Does a great job, and she had a guest on that. It's a guy, and he read him off. We sat and went through the letters and emails that he's received. There's one woman who is really obsessed with him. I mean, sending him good morning.
Because the dating pool is that pathetic. I mean, how is it that you get I want to date a convicted killer who's in jail for life? I mean, I don't see a lot of future for that relationship.
But that's a thing. That's the thing. I don't know what it's called. There's got to be a name for it. But men and women, mainly women, who go after people who are in prison for serious crimes. That's a thing.
So what did they say? I saw you on court TV, and that look in your eyes, I'm mesmerized. I mean, I don't get.
Yeah, things like that. I miss, things. If you and I were together, I would do to you, kind of thing. You're like, oh, what? And I just good evening, good night. I miss you. Weird stuff. You're just like, what?
You find out, and because it's written in anonymity, you find out it's a 350-pound, 6'4" guy.
Yeah.
No, but somebody married Ted Bundy, I think, while he was in prison down in Florida.
Really? Yeah.
Were you jealous?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. In fact,
Elaine, were you jealous?
no, will you stop? I did with Ted Bundy, and so we talked about that. And so no, I was not jealous. No. But he at least was, and
Did he invite you to the Thanksgiving dinner?
no, we're going to get right over the line of good taste here in a second. He did kill my friend. He killed Susan Elaine Rancourt and raped her and beheaded her. So he wasn't particularly good. But anyway, so when I brought it up, so I'm not, trust me, I shouldn't joke about it, but it did come up. Okay, so, but here's my thought. Ted Bundy actually was an attractive man. I mean, he was good looking. That sounds horrible, but he was. And he was charismatic. And even Ann Will is a very famous author who wrote a book about him called, I think, The Stranger Beside Me or something. But Ted Bundy had worked in a crisis hotline in Seattle. So, women that had been raped or women that were vulnerable or women that were suicidal would call in. And he was the guy answering calls. And then he was an up-and-coming Republican, actually. And so our Republican Governor, Dan Evans, actually wrote a recommendation for him to law school. And he attended the University of Washington. In fact, I took classes from people like Dr. Pember. In fact, because you have a degree in media, you might remember Dr. Pember in mass media law. Dr. Pember remembers Ted Bundy in his class. A lot of the professors did. But he was a very charismatic guy. But Ted, Alec Murdaugh, I think he's a sympathetic person. I think he loved Paul and Maggie. But I don't see falling in love with him. I don't know, who am I to say? I don't know. So you guys did a whole show on the love letters he gives?
We did. Actually, we did, I think, 2 shows.
Holy cow. Do they send him gifts? I mean, people throwing stuff. Like, remember Tom Jones? His fans would throw undergarments. Do people send Alan Murdaugh stuff?
That we didn't go over. I don't think you can. And it's
Does he respond to them? I guess that's the bigger question.
No. He has not.
He has not. Do we know?
Well, I think Jim should get an interview with Alec. In fact, would you tell us if you were working on it? Well, I think you are working on it. Would you tell us if you've gotten it? No, not until you publish the book.
Right. But I will tell you this. You can have written correspondence in South Carolina. You can have written correspondence between yourself, a reporter, and an inmate. And you write the questions, they write you back. You cannot have recorded conversations between you and an inmate. That's South Carolina. That's a South Carolina Department of Corrections policy. And in fact, I think I don't know if it's the ACLU or somebody just took them to court in federal court to try to get that overturned. And the federal court, I think it was just yesterday, the day before, threw that case out and allowed the current policy about South Carolina Department of Corrections to continue. Which is interesting because they were
for the policy. I think it's that they don't want criminals to benefit financially from their crimes, maybe, so they don't want them to be.
It's that
policy.
Well, I'm sure there's more to it than what I'm going to tell you, but it's that, and it's also they don't want victims to have to relive listening to whomever it is sit there on ABC and have to listen to it on national news. They don't want them to go through that, and I can appreciate that. But they I think they argued the for to get rid of it was First Amendment rights. However,
you lose those when you're a felon
inside prison, inside a prison where it's not public inside a prison. It's a controlled environment which the state controls. So First Amendment rights there don't apply.
Yeah. There's another reason not to commit crimes.
That's true.
Yeah. So
For those that are morally bankrupt, we have consequences. All right. I mean, you know, that's
fairly.
it's ironic. It's ironic. You know what I mean? If people are morally bankrupt, all right. Well, another reason for them not to commit a crime is a consequence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh God.
But I don't know if it's deterrent or not. But we'll be talking about caning in Singapore. That they don't have so much crime in Singapore because
Yeah,
the penalties are so harsh and they're enforced.
Right.
that's. I'm going to tell you something. Singapore is not really.
Oh, it's cracked up to be. We're not moving there. I'll cancel my tickets.
No. Yeah, cancel your tickets to Singapore, or make a round trip. But if you made a round trip, it would probably be a waste of half of the airfare because they would never let you out. You know?
Is that because of that swear jar thing?
Oh, Jim.
Yeah.
Listen, go and hit up Elaine's swear jar because it must be about $1,500 in there right now.
It's doing so well.
She slips it in.
There was a thing, and I'm gonna, what do you call it? I'm gonna
Tell me.
use some euphemistic term here. There was a term. You said something about you were so mad at somebody that you would urinate on their corpse. You know.
Oh yeah, who was that?
But you didn't use those terms. And I think that got me probably about $750 in a swear jar right there. You know, and I said, my response to that, oh yes, and kick their bones around the street. Now, I could say that, kick their bones around the street, but you used terms that were unacceptable.
Oh, well, a few good men. I remember this. You know, I hate to say this, but at some point it almost comes so easily you don't realize you said it, and that's not a good thing. Obviously, you know, I've got to go say a few Hail Marys and whatever for that, but yeah, I apologize.
We're dragging Jim into the weeds. You know,
Terrible, yes.
it turned out where it was a discussion about the Murdaugh trial to, hey, let's hang out and have a beer.
Well, so Jim, what's going on? When is you're doing a book signing, aren't you?
We're getting one planned. We'll see. But
You get one planned and avoiding two others.
right.
I have a couple of offers here, and I'm waiting to hear from you.
Well, it's certainly not me, and I said this before, and I'll say it again. What's interesting about Myra is, she's portrayed, including by Becky Hill, as being very talkative and a person who, was talking about the trial to people and very just talkative. And I can tell you for a fact, she is not very talkative. And that's not a diss on her whatsoever. That's just how she is as a person. She's a very quiet person, keeps to herself. And you have to ask very open-ended questions to her, or you're going to get a very yes and no kind of answer. That's just the type of person she is. She's a wonderful individual. She's just a very quiet, keep to herself person, which is fine. But it's like going out and getting beat 50-0, and then going out and say you won. Well, that's not the facts. I don't know where these people are getting these facts from. She's not like this very talkative person that Becky Hill, at least in the evidentiary hearing, tried to portray her as. And they're trying to portray her as that.
Wait a minute. Jim, who else said that? Remember the verbatim transcript of those January 2022 conversation, the text between Sarah Capelli and Mark Tinsley that are a matter of public record because they've been filed in the 392 case. He says that Sarah Capelli in the transcript of the hearing before Bentley Price. He said he described Sarah Capelli as having the worst diarrhea of the mouth of anybody he's ever talked to, and that wasn't true. But that's odd. Now that I think of it, that Becky Hill is doing that same kind of a character assassination of Myra that also isn't true. So maybe that's a way that some people strategize, deflecting. Because I went back and
Or maybe the same person's doing all the strategy.
well, it's obvious. To me, it's an odd similarity that I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people all day, every day, and we don't have those kinds of similarities. A similarity like that, where you're using it in the same context to discredit somebody because you don't like what they're saying. So you discredit you discredit them, you disparage them from the get-go with those kinds of comments. That's an odd similarity that I hadn't picked up on when I read the book. But yeah, Becky Hill does describe Myra that way, and that doesn't seem to be appropriate. And Sarah Capelli is not. That doesn't seem to be an accurate description of her at all.
Yeah, in the context in the evidentiary hearing, Dick Arpullian was cross-examining her, and he was trying to get her to say that she pulled her into an office and she talked to her, which Becky was not going to go down and do that. She said that she grabbed her with the bailiff. Of course, they didn't bring the bailiff in to say that happened, but she was just talking as they were walking down the hall to Judge Newman's office, and then she was just spewing all this information out there.
That must have been one long hallway, by the way.
Long hallway. I've been in that courthouse. It's not very big. I've taken a tour of it. It may look big from the outside, but when you're walking down those old halls, it's very small.
Well, for what she's attributing, the things that Becky is saying happened in this conversation, it would have to have almost been a 2-hour walk. I mean, because she's got a lot of content there that she's saying occurred then. And the reason Becky is saying that is so that she can dispute that she ever took Myra into a room and had a conversation, which Myra says she did. So, wow. When it gets back to this, just a general truth, liars lie. They just do. It's a staple trait. So when you lie, which is why I think people that commit perjury, I don't think you should necessarily ever believe them, period, frankly. So, in a way, Alec Murdaugh was more honest to say, yes, I did this, yes, I did this, yes, I did this, no, I didn't do that.
Right.
Where what we saw with Becky Hill in the hearing before Justice Toll is, no, I didn't, no, I didn't, no, I didn't, no, I didn't. And then we sort of backed into a corner, well, okay, yeah, I did. And that's, it speaks of a character that, well, frankly, is lacking as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, so what's next on your agenda? Are there more media events planned for the book, or are you working on the third book?
The third book's still rattling around in my head. I haven't put anything to paper yet. I'm just kind of, well, I shouldn't say I haven't put anything to paper yet. I've put some outlines together, what I think I want to do. But I'm still trying to promote this book, Juror 785, because enough is enough. She's going to do more. There's some local TV stations that want to talk to her. She's going to wait. She's going to do Critical K. She's going to do Excited Utterance on YouTube. But she's going to wait a little bit and wants to see where this 10 days thing comes with the Supreme Court and what happens with that before she really starts doing a lot more, because she thinks if it gets released, there's going to be a lot more to talk about.
Oh, it's going to be easier to talk about it. Then you won't have to be arguing with people with the sort of, you said it, no, I didn't. She did, no, you didn't. Also, are we going to see, if this stuff gets released, that Newman was involved too? I just don't know a better way to say it. I mean, don't you think that there were questions he should have asked that he didn't? And he should have done a little more investigation than he did.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot that could have been done differently, but it's Monday morning quarterbacking, right? I listen. At the end of the day, let's put it this way: I think Murdaugh's going to get a new murder trial sometime next year.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I got to tell you something. Newman's going to get this no matter what. You know, that's just the way it's going to be. There's nothing. Nobody's going to question Newman. Nobody's going to look down their nose at him. It's.
Well, somebody might write a nasty book about it. Yeah, there's hope.
Yeah. Well, somebody write a book, but
Yeah,
I
agree.
I think he is very well protected.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He can't do no wrong. He was. I mean, you know, everybody says he was a wonderful judge. He was a fair judge. He was a. I mean, that's their.
See, I didn't agree. It's not my opinion. I said it at the time, and I think there's a more harsh view of what was going on. But maybe we have to be more distant from the trial to take a look at what was going on, because then you might look at who allowed it to go on. Because I don't think that Newman was necessarily directly involved. I think some other players were directly involved in an agenda to get rid of her. Some monetary agenda. You're monetizing the narrative that he's guilty. So you can't have a juror that could hang the jury, basically, or convince jurors to acquit him. But I don't think Newman had that interest. But I think he was incompetent, or he dropped the ball, however you want to put it. I don't see him as a great judge, not at all. I think he did a lot of questions.
Our thing is, I don't think I'm qualified to judge the judge. I just I have an opinion, and the opinion.
Yeah.
I can't qualify it. You know.
Right. No, and it is kind of water over the dam, to be honest. I agree with that. That it's, what are you going to do? But there certainly is an interesting book to write about that. But there's a lot of interesting books out there. I think there's only 2 or 3 books worth reading in all the books that have been published about this. Because
I think there is a book in there. It's going to have to be a very technical book and a very legally driven book where your audience is going to. Your audience is going to be very small. It's going to be attorneys that want to read it, kind of thing.
I think they read.
That's all they do is read.
Yeah, no, I think they have a paralegal that summarizes things, and then they read the summary, and that's how we get so far astray and stuff. But that's just my experience. I don't know, whatever. So anyway, we're getting at the close to the end of the.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes here, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and I don't know. I mean,
so they have 10 days. The South Carolina Supreme Court has 10 days. When did the clock start ticking on that?
September 6th. So they've got till Monday. 10 days is Monday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, that by Monday, then we will be very energized, because then, the game is afoot, and we can go back to, right now we're just in that lull, that waiting period where it's like the dynamite is about to explode. We know somebody has lit the match, but we just got to wait for the fuse, so we're just sitting here waiting, which is kind of frustrating. But I think Fitz News is ready to go with it. I know Seaton is ready to go with it. Seaton is excited about the 392 case, too. And I agree with her. I've always agreed with that. But, yeah, so there's a lot. We're just in that lull right before the big storm. So that's kind of my take.
Right.
So it's a perfect time.
And somehow this is all Myra's fault, which I don't understand whatsoever. People are like, this is the justice system. It's like they complain that Dick and Jim are, defending this guy. How could they? Because it's the oath that they took. They're his attorneys. They're going to do everything they can in their power to defend their client. That's just what life is. I don't understand why people don't understand this.
Well, I don't understand why we give a microphone to people that don't understand that. Because if you don't understand that, there's probably a whole lot of other things you don't understand, like how to walk and chew gum at the same time. And I don't think you're a particularly bright person if you don't understand that everybody's entitled to a defense. Also, Dick and Jim had a long association with Alec, and not just in representing Paul, but they've been friends a long time. So it's sort of natural that they would represent him.
Right. By the way, Dick Harpootlian wrote the foreword for the book, Because Enough is Enough. It's a very short foreword, but he did write the foreword for the book, which I was very glad to accept and place into the book. And it says, a unique and disturbing look behind the curtain. by Dick Harpullion. Isn't that interesting?
Is Dick, Frank, is Dick done now? He lost in the primaries, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Is he done?
Yeah. Other than his wife,
His wife is still in passive, right?
yeah, to Slovenia or something.
Yeah. So how done can he be? You know, he's gonna be politically active. If he doesn't have his name, on the placard on the desk, he'll still control that desk.
Well, when he's done,
You understand the metaphor, right?
Right.
yes, but listen, Dick, Frank, when he's done, let's do a live stream with him. I think he's an interesting guy.
I could probably get him.
Let's get everything out.
Yeah. You just need to know what we're going to address as far as content.
Smoking dope and evading the draft. Going to law school in order to evade the draft. Let's start with that.
No.
No. Not loving it.
No.
What do you think, Jim?
I'm not going there.
No.
He was there. I didn't go there. There.
Yeah.
There's a podcast. I listened to it. No, he talks about it.
Hey, by the way, congratulations on your interview with South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. I haven't heard it yet. I'm going to try to listen to it today.
Fabulous. Exactly fabulous. You listen to it, get back to me, and I want a written report on it, Jim.
Written report. I'll write a book on it.
By the way, don't you owe me something in writing?
I'll have it on Amazon this afternoon.
No. Jim, pay attention.
I'm kidding.
I sent you the text this morning.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks.
I sent you a text this morning at 4:00.
I get up at 4. Jim sleeps in till I bet you Jim just got up.
But it's because Elaine goes to bed at 8 o'clock when the sun's still up.
I do. So anyway, but I had something bad happen yesterday that I told you about, Frank. Okay, so I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm just thinking, gosh, I hate humanity. You know, people are such bad. You know, they're so nasty and gossipy and petty and whatever. So I've been up since 2, and so at 4 I did something. I had a little project I was doing, and so I sent that off. I sent the text off to Jim. Normally I won't text anybody at 4 in the morning, but I know he's not asleep, so it won't matter. And I'm trying to sure got it because it's just some stupid thing, but it's something that's sort of marginal and important, I suppose. But anyway, yeah. But if you want to get Jim on the phone after 10 o'clock in the morning, and then probably after midnight at night, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, it's you.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you'll wake up at 7 in the morning, send a text. I think you just roll over and go back to sleep.
Oh, I do. Oh, 100% do. 100% do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, you beat this system. We're an hour into this.
Yes.
And we want to not make life too difficult for Jonathan, because he's got to clip this to an hour to get it to run smoothly. But let's do this again next week. And
Wednesday, no, because Wednesday we're going to have something on Monday. Let's
look at the schedule and
okay.
And maybe you want to do it Tuesday while it's fresh in your mind, or Wednesday may be good because you want to digest the reaction of others to it. So yeah, let's be fluid about it. It could be Tuesday or Wednesday, but I thank you too much. I thank you, Mr. Jim. I thank you, Miss Elaine.
Thank you.
And let's end this with the traditional ending.
We are out of here.
We are out of here.
Crime and Cask out.
Hey, keep Cask out. Take care.
Okay. Bye, guys.
See ya. Bye.